Hello, and welcome back to day 9 of Inktober. My name is Candi VanDerWerf. I go by Sugar Cards on social media, and I am going to show you how I like to do some ink smooshing. Ink smooshing is one of my favorite things to do, especially when I'm not sure what I want to create. And all you really need is, my opinion, you need good watercolor cardstock. I just have some basic watercolor cardstock. Water. You can do ink pads, reinkers, watercolors. You can do sprays, whatever, anything that works with water. Today I'm going to be using the color Hive reinkers and ink pads. Apologize for that. It's kind of early this morning. I'm going to show you a couple ways. You can use an ink pad or an acrylic block, a piece of plastic. This is just from packaging from a stamp. Or anything. You could use saran wrap if you wanted to. Wax paper, I think, would work. My favorite is really to use it directly on your mat, either a glass mat or a craft mat. So we're going to start with the glass mat here and inking. So what I'm going to start with, here's the telephone box, and all I do is I just stick my pad down, and depends on what color I want, how much I want, and then I spray it with some water. And you can do it two different ways depending on your look. I have just some regular cardstock here, and I'm just going to press it right in. Or this is watercolor paper, I apologize. And you can put it in, and you can get just these nice splotches like this, and you can keep going over and over. And you know, you can do more, and then you can add more as you need. Adding a little more water. You want it to be able to bead up a little bit. And you get these very vibrant, the color of ink here gives you very, very, very vibrant colors, especially when you have just direct to the paper. Or, I'm going to set that aside for a minute, or you can actually I'm going to put a little more, and then this time what I'm going to do is show you a little difference. Is I'm going to ink this, but I'm also going to spray my paper. This is just regular old tap water. I spray both sides of my paper because that helps a little bit with the curling. And then when you put it down, you get a different look completely. See the difference between these two looks? You get more of a watercolor background versus very bright, vibrant background. Both are good, and you just can keep adding as you want. I'm going to set this one aside for a few minutes. I'm going to actually grab this one back, and I'm going to add some more to this color because I do not want a lot of the white. I'm making backgrounds this time, and I don't want a lot of white. So I just smoosh it in where I want it. The one thing when you use it this way, which, like I said, is my favorite way to do it, is you don't have as much control because you can't see what you're doing. You have to push it down and just hope for the best. You will get inky, so if you want to use gloves, you can. And then I just take a cloth and wipe it up. Now, way to get more control is to do with an acrylic block or with a piece of plastic like this. So I'm going to switch colors now and go to a green. This is the British Racing Green. And I'm just going to pop some color on there. You can mix colors. You just have to make sure that they're colors that are going to blend well, or you need to dry them in between so that you don't get mud. And now that I sprayed this with water, I'm going to grab a piece of cardstock. I am going to spritz my cardstock. I prefer wet cardstock for this technique. And then you just take and you press it. And once you wet the cardstock, it kind of lets you do what the paper goes where you want. So this way you have a little bit more control of where the color's going, what it looks like. So if you're looking for more of a splotchy look, you can control that. And then you can, just push it in wherever you want. I like to do all sorts of stuff. You can see that you have more, like I said, control of this. I'm going to move this out of the side for a minute, and we're going to clean this up. If I can find my cloth. And we will add some more. So we will go on to the next color. I don't have a heat tool at the moment. It had died on me yesterday, so I am going to let them dry naturally for right now. Here I'm going to use some palm tree ink. We'll do another one of these with a little bit of plastic, and then I'm going to add a little bit of the British racing green too, because they're two different colors. I'm going to spray these, and then we'll use the acrylic block and do one more here. So here, once again, you know, you can crinkle up your paper so it gives you, those lines. I didn't spray my paper this time, so like I said, it gives you a little bit deeper look. But if you spray your paper ahead of time, it gives you more of a watercolor look, which is just a beautiful, you know, it can flow and mix and all that fun stuff. You just play as you go. So now I'm going to set this plastic aside for now and move on to another technique version of this. All right. So I'll clean our spaces up here. All right, I got a couple more pieces of paper here, so we'll do two more here, and then I will show you a little bit something. I'll cut down some more paper. All right, so next we're going to use the acrylic block. This time I'm going to go in and do a little bit of a mix of a couple different colors. So I'm going to use some Yellowstone, and I'm going to do that first. So I'm just going to ink that up on my ink block. I am going to spray my paper. And as you see, you know, if you have inky fingers, you can get inky, you know, so make sure if you don't want the colors mixed, you do that. So I sprayed my ink, and then I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to just push my block in. And the one thing that a block can do, like this one has those fun shapes, but since I'm just going to, I like making crazy, like full backgrounds. I don't tend to leave a lot of white space when I'm ink blending or ink smooshing. But I like to just fill it all up and see what happens. So now I'm going to add some telephone box, some more water. And then go in and push it in and just let the colors mix. You can spray your paper a little bit, especially if it's a thicker watercolor, and you can just kind of move it around. And in reality, if you don't like what you're doing, you can actually smoosh it back down on your paper and pick it back up, and it will. So ink smooshing is one of the easiest techniques you can do. It can be one of the messiest techniques you can do, but you can keep doing over and over and keep adding to it. But now look at those two beautiful colors. They mix. We got some yellow, we got red, and we got some of this orange where it's mixing. So I'm going to set that one off here. And then I'm going to show you one other thing with this is that you can also do it with just a re-inker. And I have telephone box here. I'm going to put that a little bit down. You can kind of just, depends on what kind of look you're going through. If you want a mixed look, you can put it all over. You can put them in rainbow order and make colors. I am going to add a little bit of the Yellowstone in here. You don't have to have a lot. I'm not even really squeezing. I'm just kind of putting it down, dabbing it down. And then I'm going to go ahead and spray this just to kind of get it moving. I got a lot of water in here, but you can see where it's starting to move the colors on there. And then I'm going to take my paper, once again, spray it both sides, and I'm going to just push it right in. And I like to just push it in, pick it up, and just see what happens. And look at that beautiful. I don't even really want to do anything else with that. I love that color. So I'm just going to grab some scrap cardstock here that I have put aside and stamp some up. I've just got a bunch of white pieces of cardstock here on the side of my desk, and I don't like to save any ink. So this is just regular lightweight cardstock. So you can tell the difference. It's a different, completely different. It absorbs in the paper differently. So that's why I like to use watercolor paper, because it will spread out and kind of get that watercolor look versus this bright on the cardstock here. So I'm just going to use up the rest of it that's here on my mat. And then I'm going to grab some more paper. All right, so we'll set this one aside to dry. And let's see if I got some more watercolor paper around here. Okay, yep, I had one more piece sitting here, and this is a little bit heavier watercolor paper, but I wanted to show you something that I've kind of discovered yesterday kind of for fun. I'm in the mood for Christmas and fall, so I've been making some Christmas and fall cards. I'm going to add some of that telephone box right directly to my table. I'm going to spray it and just get it all wet. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of the Solar Flare Kaleidoscope powder, and I'm just going to take a little pinch of it and sprinkle it in. You can do this with any of the Kaleidoscope powders, but you know, gold and red to me are fun Christmas colors, of course. Iconic Christmas colors. So of course I got it all over my fingers, so let me quick wipe them off a little bit. All right, now we're going to go for it. We're going to spray our watercolor paper. I think this was just a leftover piece from another project that I had sitting here. And I'm going to go ahead and push that in. It doesn't matter what the back looks like. Yes, I'm getting it all inky, but wait till you see. And then if you can see in the colors, it's not quite, since it's watery, it's not quite as bright red, but you've got that gold from the Kaleidoscope powder in there. And I'm just going to keep pushing it in. And I'm going to let that, I want the whole thing covered, so that way if I want to use the whole background. And I've got that. And then I'm going to go back. I'm going to take, this is the first piece we did, and I'm going to add some more to the top just to pick it up and give it some dimension. It's not 100% dry, but it's drier. And then if you look, you can see that color of that Kaleidoscope in there. And that will tie in nicely with the embossing powder I'm going to use to make these cards. So then I'm going to set that one aside, and I'm going to grab the next piece and just see what else is left. I'm just going to squish it around, use it all up. Look at all that Kaleidoscope powder there on there with this. All right. So I'm going to set those aside to dry, and then I'll come back and we will start making some cards and seeing if we need to add some more smooshing to them. All right, we'll see you soon. Welcome back. It's been a couple of days. I've been letting my panels dry, and I made a couple of cards ahead of time, so you know, you could see some things that I wanted to do with it, but I wanted to go back and kind of show you how everything kind of dried up. So first, I'm going to set these off to the side. Those are the panels we made. Here's the first that one panel we made with the Solar Flare Kaleidoscope powder in with the telephone box and Yellowstone ink. But I wanted to say what I also did with this one is I sprayed it with some pixie spray from Thermoweb, and then I took some leftover foil that you can use with the toner, and I just dabbed it on. So I have two different types of foil on here. And what I'm going to do with this one, I'm going to cut out some fall leaves with a die for my stash and make a fall card with this one. So I just wanted, you know, sometimes that's what ink smooshing is perfect for, is making die cuts. Like I said, you know, I can get so many fall colors. So here's the same colors, but it's on a different paper. This is just on cardstock. And I didn't use any of the Kaleidoscope paper, and it's more muted because this one had more water. But once again, what a great fall background. So here is one of the red ones with the telephone box and the Kaleidoscope powder. I love that. And I have a bunch of these backgrounds ready to go to make some Christmas cards. Here's another one. This one has a little bit deeper color. I left a little bit of the white and some more of the Kaleidoscope powder. Here is a more watered down version of the same thing. Once again, I love that little bit of Kaleidoscope powder in there. This is the one where we let it go and then it dripped, and then I came back and just dipped a little bit more in it. So you have that little bit of extra. So I did 2 things of ink smooshing there. Here's one on some thick watercolor paper. Every time they're just different. Look at the differences in all these. You know, and the amount of water you add, or if you add more than one color, is great. Here's one with the green. And I think there's a little bit of Kaleidoscope powder in this one. This one's the palm tree. But I think it's very faint. So I'm not 100% sure if there's some in this one or if there was just a little left over. But that one's great. Here's a great one for slimline cards. This would be a great card to just pull off, you know, a welcome banner or something like that. But this will be a fun background for a slimline card or a mini slim card. You know, it only has a little bit of gold here, so I could use this for more of a mini slim card. Here's just the yellow, and there was a little leftover green on my. So I love even backgrounds like this because I can just put an image on there, and I use all that white space, and it's just for some interest. And now I have a few things that I have done ahead of time, and I wanted to share those with you. So this is with the Heaven and Nature Sing stamp sets. Here's a couple. I had some small pieces left. I stamped out the sentiments with the clear embossing ink, and then I covered it with a solar flare embossing powder and heat set it, and then I cut it out with just a rectangle die from my stash to use as tags or an image on my card. I just have them ready to go for when I'm ready to make Christmas cards. And then here, this one was really fun. I didn't put a sentiment on this one because I wanted to keep this one for what do I want to use it for? Do I want to use it for Christmas? Do I want to use it for a birthday card? But I wanted to show that I did the green and the green and the red on this one. And so there's a little bit darker colors here. But then I stamped out both of the trees and the stars from the Heaven and Nature Sing stamp set, and then I covered them with the Kaleidoscope powder, and I just cut it out. And then I went through my stash and found a couple of dies, and here's where I cut some dies from one of the other papers that I made, and I liked keeping the white in there because then it ties in. And then just a ribbon from my stash, and I have a card pretty much ready to go. I just need a sentiment. I can use it for anything, and I'll probably stamp it in gold. And this and that, and then maybe add some bling, but I just wanted to share with that one. And then one other card I finished was this one. This one was with the two different, the palm tree and the evergreen, I can't remember exactly the name. Oh, the British Racing Green, I'm sorry. And I let it dry, and then I ran it through my die cut machine with the stencil from Maker Forte, and dry embossed it in. And then I heat set the sentiment from the All Heaven and Nature Sing with the solar flare embossing powder on vellum and cut it out, put it right in the middle, and then added just a little bit of bling. This is the, I don't have the lid on there. I didn't want to. These are some of my favorite. I don't have the name. I think they're the night ones. I love these. These are some of my favorite gems because I like the different colors, and just added a little, and just got this simple card. There's a tiny bit of that solar flare Kaleidoscope powder in the background. That's just a hint of a shimmer. So those were some things that I thought I'd show that you could do with your smooshing, but I figured we'd finish up a couple other extra cards. here that I have ready to go. I did a little of the die cutting ahead of time and planning. Here is the first one. I don't have a sentiment set for this one yet, but I have the top folding, Maker Forte top folding card bases. These are really nice card bases. This is some of the British Racing Green cardstock I cut down. I had some of this left in my stash from another project. And then here is one of our backgrounds. And I am in love with this. I wanted this stencil. This is the Modern Christmas Trees 2-layer slimline set stencil. And what I did is after I heat emboss, or after I let it dry, I used an anti-static powder tool and I lined up my stencil and then used some of the clear embossing ink and the solar flare embossing powder. And then I lined up the second stencil. I cut it out with a stitch square. And then I realized I still had a little left over. So I actually just lined up my stencil and masked it off and added a few more trees. See, we have just a little bit. And this is just going to be another one of those cards that I have ready to go for just in case I need a winter birthday card or a thank you card, or I can throw Christmas sentiment on it real quick. But you know, this is what I tend to do when I don't know what to make sometimes, is I just make these backgrounds and then I will get them ready to go on a mat and put them on a card base, or I will just leave them on the mat until I'm ready to put them together. I noticed my die didn't get cut clean, so I wanted to cut this off just a hair on the top and on the bottom. I got a new cutting, or I have an old cutting plate and I needed to replace it, so I just cut a little bit of that off. Get that situated. And we'll add this to our front and then it's ready to go. I can add some of vellum, something on vellum if I want, or maybe a gold sentiment, put a circle underneath it with vellum to, you know, make it pop. But I just loved how this background looks kind of like a fir or a pine tree. All right, I didn't fold my card base quite straight. That was my fault. I didn't use a bone folder. I just kind of grabbed it. So let me add this up. Since I cut that down a little bit, I got to cut my card base down just a smidge, because I had to cut that panel down just a little bit. Let's see here. So you can tell it's a very good card base because it's super thick. Just trim off the edge. And I have another card panel ready to go and finish with my cards when I'm ready to add something to that. And then last, we have two other cards I have ready to kind of go. I went and pulled from my stash the Maker Forte in collaboration with Alexa Siberia design to a friend. And I'm going to use the thank you stamp out of that. And what I did is I have some of the foilable sheets from Maker Forte, and I have the fall set, and I foiled this with some orange and green foil from Thermoweb, and I'm just going to put this on one of the backgrounds. I thought this would be fun. It kind of mimics the polka dots on there, so let's get that. And I'm just going to make a quick thank you card, and I thought it would be fun to I'm going to line this up here where I want it, and then I'm going to stamp my sentiment right here. And what I like to do is I'm going to dry heat emboss this and then use the clear embossing ink. I want to make sure that's lined up kind of straight. Ooh, it's a little bit off. Let's get it back on. I gotta get it on that line. Excuse me one second here. There we go. There we go. That looks better. We're just going to use some of the clear color Hive ink. Damp that down. Quick, simple. That's one thing I really, really like about ink smoosh backgrounds, is you can add just sentiment and have a beautiful card, add a die cut, add an image, and you're ready to go. So I just have some white embossing powder here. I'm going to set that in there. And I just keep mine in Tupperware because I use a lot of white embossing powder. And we're going to quick heat set that. Let's grab my heat tool. Sorry for the noise. And let's see, I have a card base here up to the side. I decided not to cut this one down. I would just leave it the full pace of the card base. So you can see this was just a plain scrap piece. I was using leftover ink on my, I was using the leftover ink to just make a background. So it's why it went through. Just plain old scrap cardstock. It was a little warped, so I put a lot of tape down on it. Line it up here. Just a little bit shy of my card base, so I'll trim that down here. In a minute, I think I'm just going to pop up this. I just have some foam squares here that are just sitting on my desk needing to be used up. I'm just going to grab those quick. And cut this down here. Peel those off quick and we'll pop that on and we got a nice quick card. Of course. So I hope you have enjoyed ink smooshing. If you haven't tried it yet, go for it. You know, use your favorite colors. You can use one color. Like I said, use corresponding colors. So a lot of times I like to use red and yellow because red and yellow make orange, or yellow and blue, or blue and red, you know, or, you know, at least complementary colors. So that way you don't get a lot of mud on the color, you know, and stop, you know, walk away from your ink smooshing. And I think I'm actually going to put it right here. And there we go. We've got a quick and fast and great thank you card using ink smooshing technique and just a quick simple sentiment and a foilable die cut. And then last, we've got one more here. Let's get our sentiment put away here. My last one, I'm using the floral background with sentiments from Maker Forte, also in collaboration with Alex Siberia Design. I love this stamp set. I love the sentiments. It's another thank you card. It says thanks for everything. And I have another watercolor background. This one was mostly red, and then I added just a little bit of yellow to it. So I loved how that kind of looked on there. And we're going to actually turn this portrait-wise. I have some more foilable pumpkins from that same fall set that I just used the orange and stuff. I thought that would be fun. And this one we're going to stamp down. I did not cut my excuse my head while I line that up. I did not grab my mat because I am going to mat this. I think. Let's see. Actually, I changed my mind. We're not, because I wanted to tie into the white of the foilables. So I'm going to go ahead again using the clear ink and my anti-static powder tool. We'll stamp that down. Then I just use my finger. I don't try to push super hard because I don't want to squish my sentiment. Let's grab that out. We'll clean that off later. And get my white embossing powder back. Oh, did I not get it out there? We're on the wrong side. See, that's what happens with clear embossing ink. Can't quite see it. There we go. And wipe that excess over here off. And let's heat set this one. Once again, I'm sorry for any noise you might have from my embossing ink going. If your heat tool seems to warp your paper, you can also go from underside a little bit. That will help it straighten back out. Everything looks good and melted there. Put that out of the way. I did forget to grab another card base, so I am going to just put this one together in a minute, and I will grab a card base. So we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to use some liquid glue to attach 2 of the 3 pumpkins. We'll pop up the third if my glue bottle is going to cooperate. Start with this one. And then I wanted to put my 2 yellow ones down below. And I wanted to show that when I went to foil, I had a little bit where I missed with my foiling. So I just grabbed, when I did my green up here, because I just masked off the green with a piece of tape or a piece of paper. And actually, I think what I did, I cut down my paper to be very thin, and then I cut my orange to go around like this. And then I just threw a little piece in right there to cover up the black spot that I missed because I wasn't paying close enough attention when I peeled off my foil. And so I had already put the foil away. And so I just grabbed a green and threw back on and threw that in there because sometimes pumpkins are a couple different colors. I'll put that one right about there, and we'll stick these on here. Cut one more down here in half. Get that in here so it's sticking up, and I'll put the last little piece right there. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. I hope you had some fun while I add this last little bit. And like I said, I'm going to add this just to a white card base. And I hope you come back every day in the month of October to learn more about different inks you can use and different ways you can use them for the month of October. Got one more here. Finish this card off. I'll stick this one down right here. And like I said, I'm going to grab a card base. Let's see, I think I have one right here. I actually just grabbed a side folding card base for this one because I did not want a top folding base for something that was the first. Let me see, I think I had one sitting here off the side. And then I'm just going to put that, and then love how the white ties into all of this. The edges of my die cuts, the heat embossing, and then the back of my card just gives it just that little bit of extra so it all works. I love the soft muted colors of this card, this background. This was one that added a little bit more water to towards the end, and it created. So thank you for joining me again. Like I said, hope you try ink smooshing, and remember that you can use them to create fun little backgrounds for your cards, or you can make them for tags, or cut them out with die cuts. And I appreciate it. We will see you next time. Have a great afternoon. Bye.